Friday the 14th. Can we close that door a minute?
I was going to say there's an awful lot of chat coming in over that.
Close the door. Good afternoon, everybody, and it's Friday the 14th of August, and welcome to Thank Furlough. It's Friday again, and I'm actually sitting in the ICB office at the moment, which is why I've got this grey screen behind me. If you just have a look up there, yeah, you see, there's the logo sitting behind us. I'm sitting in reception at the moment because we're not back in the office, but some of us have come in today because we've had to have a face-to-face meeting, and we have had a call today from OPBAS following our inspection and our audit, which comes every sort of quarter. And I'm very pleased to say they were extremely positive. So we're absolutely over the moon here about what we've been doing and everything else. I'm not going to go into too much detail because they've also sent us a letter, so I need to go through the letter and the appendices and make sure what we're doing. A few things we will be changing, and we'll be talking to you about that, of course, in due course. But yeah, as soon as that's available. And I'm, as always, joined by Jacquie Mount, Seagull Lady, or whatever it is. And I gather, Jacquie, that there's a few scary things to talk about today.
Well, yes and no. Good afternoon, everybody. First of all, can I have my congratulations to Garry's, but for all the hard work that I know the ICB team did on leading up towards that inspection. That really was a very big inspection. So well done, all the team up there. That was huge, and puts us in a very good light with everyone. So fabulous. Interestingly enough, I had a very long meeting with HMRC yesterday, which I have to say, sort of went round and round in circles and never actually got very far. And I have to say, if you want to chuckle, and the comfort break in the middle, I actually rang Garry up to have a rant because I needed to rant at somebody because I was getting very frustrated with the way it was going. But I'm not sure we actually achieved anything after 2.5 hours, but it was a way to spend an afternoon, I suppose, on a Thursday. Right, I'm just going to dive straight in because I haven't got very much to actually say today. A few sort of things come up, but it's been quite a quiet week actually as far as COVID-19 bits and pieces are concerned. The one slightly outside what we normally talk about. At the start of lockdown, Companies House ceased striking off companies. So if you were going through a strike-off period, that never actually got completed. That was put into abeyance. And that's going to resume from the 10th of October. So if anybody is looking into company strike-offs, limited companies closing down, various other things, that starts going on the 10th of October. No idea how long it's going to take to catch up, but that's ongoing. And I've had a conversation with quite a few members this week, and thank you for those who contributed and sort of been chatting to me, mostly coming through technical queries. And I've been ringing people up because sometimes it's easier to ring you up and just have a chat with you over the phone and try and put it all in an email. And I'm just going to reiterate, with the flexible furlough, some of the figures that you're calculating that we're all working towards and we've talked about are coming out very much lower than what HMRC is saying. I've mentioned this before. And what's happening is that the CJRS flexible furlough calculator is still working on the figures that we were using last year based on the February salaries or the higher of the relevant month or the previous 12 months average. Now, that would have included things like overtime and any any other payments that were contractual is the word I'm thinking of, contractual bonuses, overtime, commission payments, that sort of thing. So it could have been quite high. And all through the fixed furlough period, that was fine because it gave them the income that they should have probably got if they'd still been open and working. However, since flexible furlough, things have changed very much, and this is what's caused the issues. Not so much if you're on a fixed salary, because even if you're working flexibly, if you're a salaried person it's not working out too dissimilar. But if you're on a variable contract or a 0 hours contract, and this is specifically aimed at those working in the hospitality industry, so restaurants, pubs, clubs, bars, that sort of thing, where employers are bringing back some staff or all staff on reduced hours. Now that's because they don't need as many staff because they're not serving as many clients, that sort of thing. And they're paying them the standard rate, but because they're working short hours, nobody's getting any overtime. And what's happening is that when they do the calculation through the HMRC calculator, and they put in their worked hours and they put in their furloughed hours, the furloughed hours are being picked up at a much higher rate than the worked hours because of previous overtime. To see where it's going with this. And what's happening is that a lot of them are actually getting paid officially a lot more for not working than they are for working. And it also means that if you've got staff coming back working, and some staff still furloughed, the furloughed staff are actually getting paid more as far as HMRC are concerned as the non-furloughed staff, and the employers are starting to say, well, hang on, this isn't right. So we've been looking at a number of options, and the decision that we've come to is that it's really up to the employer, because if you're on a 0 hours contract, you can say these are the hours you're working and this is the rate we're going to be working at, and maybe use the current hourly rate for the furloughed hours, which comes out a lot less. And I think in one case, it's almost for the employer, nearly £1,000 a month. Now, that was not too bad in July, but we've got staff who are employees who are working and being paid a standard minimum wage. And we've got furloughed staff who are being paid a minimum wage plus overtime. So we've had quite a few discussions this week about how that's going to work. Now, I think it's down to the agreement between the employer and the individual employee. We've also got staff who've come back and said, well, I'm being furloughed for 3 days at the rate I was on. I'm now coming back to work and I'm only getting 20% more for working than I am for furlough. So I want a raise, please, for the hours that I'm working. Now, you can imagine we've had some really amusing conversations this week, but it can lead to an awful lot of problems. For example, we've had a mum who has come back and complained on behalf of her 17-year-old daughter that she's not being paid enough, and that's been sorted. But these are the sort of issues that members are coming up with at the moment. And we thought this was going to be so easy, the flexible furlough, but it's not. So again, if you've got any queries, do email us and I'll pick it up and call you, and we can maybe talk it through, and I can start to build a case for with HMRC on this. So that's flexible furlough. The other announcement that's come out this week, well, it's got some detail. As you are all aware, the second claim for self-employment, this phase 2, opens on Monday the 17th. Now the details come out. If you are getting the emails as a tax agent, you will have seen this morning, and I just want to share my screen because I just want to, hopefully, can you see that? Gary, can you see that, or are you still?
Not yet, no, it's started sharing, but I've got that lovely little circle that whizzes round. There we are.
Okay, can you see, is that a Word document now coming up?
It is, yeah.
Right, okay.
Eligibility criteria.
Right, the eligibility for the criteria. Now, when phase 1 started, we had quite a few conversations with members about, particularly our own members, claiming whether they should or should not be claiming ethically if their income hasn't gone down. And some people were saying, well, they're going to claim and maybe put it away into a savings account, so if it's found at the end of the year that they've not been effective, then they're going to pay it back. Now, this was the interesting comment. It's the third line. Self-employed people who are eligible for the first SAYS grant will be eligible for the second grant. Now, this is the crunch bit. So long as their business has been adversely affected since the 14th of July, typically because their businesses have experienced lower income or higher costs, there is no minimum threshold over which a business activities need to change, but your clients will be asked to keep appropriate records as evidence of how their business has been adversely affected. as I said, we've discussed this before, but this is the first time I've actually seen anything in writing as to when and where and the limits for claiming the SAYS grant. Now, what worries me about this, and I'd be interested in comments from everybody, is that everything in the news at the moment is about redundancies on the increase, layoffs are on the increase, businesses are still likely to be laying off more and more people as they have to put more into the salary. So this month they're paying employers NOC and pension contributions. Next month it's that plus 10%, and in October it's that plus 20%. And a lot of companies who are struggling are now going to start laying people off. So I think for our members, there may be a point at which if your clients have to close down, you are going to start losing income, and therefore will probably be valid in claiming the grants. Now, I am going to go back to HMRC and try to get some clarification on this. This literally came in mid-morning, so I haven't had a chance to contact them yet, to see whether this is all averaged, can be averaged out over the year, because you may not be losing money now, you may not have lost money in the first quarter, but you might lose income in the second quarter. So I will be very interested in any comments that anybody's got on that. Okay, that's, to be honest, all the news I've got this week. It's been quite a quiet week as far as COVID-19 news is concerned. So, Garry.
Interesting from Terry Ram there. Hi, Terry. SICE, for your information, big issue is people must be confident their claim is legitimate, as large penalties of 50 to 100% of value of claim can be issued. So number one concern for some of my clients is, what does continuing to be impacted by coronavirus mean? I phoned HMRC yesterday and gave them a few construction industry worker examples together with hairdressers. Contractors, revenue slightly less, supply chain issues. Hairdressers, revenue same, but spent money on cleaning and PPI. In both cases, was told, yes, they can claim as adversely impacted. Surprised me, but it's what they said. Just leaves a moral issue if they want to do it.
Yeah.
Whoa.
I think that's absolutely right, Terry. It's interesting that it's not just income reduced, it's income reduced and or expenses increased. So you could still be earning, having the same income, but if you've had to invest in PPE, then your costs have gone up because of COVID. So your profits will be down. So it's not just turnover down, it's turnover down and all costs going up. My concern on this is the long-term effect on what's going to happen in perhaps September to December, once the funding stops completely. There has been quite a bit of push in the papers and on the news I've seen about trying to persuade the Chancellor to extend this funding, but there's nothing around yet. I've seen nothing about it apart from pushing in social media and the papers. And of course, EU law, under which we are still obliged to operate, states that any funding for this must cease on the 31st of December. It cannot go past 31st of December. And at the moment, we're still covered by that EU law. So, yeah, interesting. Watch this space. I will go back to my group that I work with on this, that we've been discussing all this for the last 3 months with HMRC, and I'm going to send a group email out. I haven't had a chance to do it yet today, so I haven't had an answer, and it usually takes about 3 or 4 days. Although I have to say, once one of us puts an email up, the other professional bodies are very quick to come back and put their 2 penny things. So I'm sure I will have something fairly soon back.
So Jackie, just listening to your frustration yesterday when you took a break and decided to bring a friend, as they say. The big concern seems to be that agents aren't necessarily all they're cracked up to be. So it's us. You're firing on all corners to try and get some sort of recognition of those people who are qualified. There are certain bodies as part of that who perhaps aren't qualified in our sense of the word qualified. And at the moment, I think HMRC seems to be saying that majority of people who are trying to commit fraud or whatever you might call it are the unregulated. But I don't think that can be true, because if you look at the number of people that are committing frauds, a lot of them do have professional advisors. So we're all going to have to jump through a few more hoops to prove who we are and what we are, I think.
Absolutely. Well, it's not only that. I mean, if you pick up on some of the disciplinary actions by some of the large accountancy bodies, there's a few of their members doing some things that are not quite right as well, and they're fines. To be honest, if ICB think, I know their income and turnover is probably different to our members, but you know, they're really hitting some of their members very hard when they're getting it wrong. About a third of registered tax agents are registered with HMRC for AML and are not registered with a professional body.
Yeah.
And those are the ones with whom we have concern. Now, one of the things that we were talking about yesterday was this online approval for you to take a client on. Now, at the moment, you'll have the signs, you put the stuff up. It works with VAT, although they're looking at the VAT agents bit as well. But certainly for things like self-assessment, well, self-assessment we were talking about. You've got this current form, which is 64A, which, as far as I'm aware, and I have to say it's years since I've done one, you get that signed, you send it off to HMRC under the old scheme, and there may be an online version of it. But how do HMRC know that that client is who they say they are? You know that they are who they say you are, and our AML system knows, because I had a look at the questions yesterday that you have to answer for every single client when you do your risk assessment. And there are quite a few of them. So we know, as ICB, we know they're bona fide clients because you've done a risk assessment on them. HMRC knows who you are because they have your registration and the fact that you are registered with ICB and we're an AML approved body and everything else. So those two links are okay. So it's you to the client and it's you to HMRC are fine. The problem seems to be when you're trying to link you with the client and HMRC. So it's that third one that goes across the top of my little triangle. Sorry, I speak with my hands. Everyone that knows me knows that. That's the one that HMRC are trying to sort. And the problem is, how do they prove that that person is who they are? And how does it fall under GDPR, General Data Protection? And what rules and everything does it break? And I have to say, we took an hour and 25 minutes with just going round in circles saying, but we need a GDPR thing. And someone was saying, well, what about this? No, we need this, we need that. And we never actually got very far with it. So after I spoke to Garry, I did go back and say what ICB does. And I have to say, there were some very thoughtful silences around the group as to what ICB do. And I discovered yesterday that actually not many people do what we do. So we're well ahead of the game. But I think the others are going to have to catch up fast. So what I might be doing is I may very well be coming out to a few more of you and asking for some thoughts about how that works. As I said last week, thank you very much to those that I have spoken to. I do want to follow up on this. So I will be coming out to you with maybe some questions.
Yeah, Jacquie, I mean, it's come across this morning from this conversation we've had with Opbas that actually our AML online is unique, and the information that gives us in order to be able to assist members if we've got, say, a particular alert for a sector or something like that, they think is a major advantage that we have over others. And I suppose the thing is that we... if you like, it's the way Xero hit the market. We looked at the bookkeeping and accountancy professional bodies and decided what was good, but also what was necessary. And because we were new and starting up, we added a lot of processes, procedures, and buzzers and bells in there that not everybody else had the chance to do. So if you look at something like ICAW, I feel for them because they're 130 years old or something or other, and must be like trying to turn an oil tank around in a canal. You know, it's virtually impossible. Whereas we started from picking up the bits that we felt they needed to do, and probably they felt needed to do as well. And I know, having discussions with people at ICAW, Paul Simpkins, when he was head of money laundering, for example, for anti-money laundering for ICAW, he always said, oh, I wish I could have a system like that. So we're great, we've got that, and our members do benefit from that. I think one of ICB's problems is that we give away so much good stuff that we don't remind our members that they're getting it, you know, and they see it as a bit of a chore sometimes. Well, actually, it's not a chore. It's a major cost and time-saving benefit. And now, if it becomes the norm and the expected norm, they're going to be ahead of the game again, which I think is fantastic. So that's really good.
Well, I have to say, Garry, you and I have discussed this, and we're about to put an answer to a consultation paper in the next few weeks about improving the tax agent, tax advisor whole system and how it can work. And I have to say, we're seriously looking to the idea that we firmly believe that all tax agents should be registered with professional bodies that have their own AML supervisory skills anyway, and that is going to put a whole lot of people, that's really going to put the cat among the pigeons. Some quite strongly worded comments going in on that consultation about it, and I think some of the other professional bodies are probably still sitting in the 20th century with paper-based versions of what they do. Everybody seemed quite astounded at the sort of things that we offer to our members, and it also gives us a much better link electronically. If HMRC are looking to improve their digitalisation for everything, I have put forward that I think one of the first things they need to do is to ensure that if you're applying for a self-assessment tax agent, if you're a new tax agent and you want the tax agent code, and you also have to write, and you also want to tell them about your change of address, you have to write to them. Snail mail to get it changed. And I spoke to someone the other day who apparently it took 3 years for her change of address to get through to HMRC, for all her client stuff to get through to her. So yeah, there's a lot of work to be done there.
Yeah, and I think the other thing is that where we have to be there for our members is that what we don't want is everybody that is a tax agent to be judged by necessarily the same criteria, because I think when you look at the whole tax agent market, a lot of the tax agents are there to try and save their clients money. What we're actually doing, although we're trying to make sure our clients don't overpay, what we are is far more black and white, I think. We're there to say, right, this is what's due, this is how you pay it. And I don't want to get to the stage where in order to be able to do that, we have to be able to get into tax saving schemes and everything else and prove our ability to handle those, because that's just not what bookkeepers are about.
And I don't think it's the sort of thing that we should be doing. I mean, there are bits of tax advice that we're going to be looking at that you can do. I mean, I'm thinking as things as simple as, you know, if you can see that your client's got quite a lot of money in the bank and they need a new asset, you know, buy the asset and claim the capital allowances on it, because you're using the cash, you're buying the asset, you're reducing the tax. Now that's fine, because that's a bit of basic common sense tax advice. But how to save yourself in tax and go through some of these tax avoidance schemes, we said definitely not. And interestingly enough, on top of that, HMRC are asking as part of this consultancy as to whether we believe that if a tax agent gives bad advice, should they be prosecuted as well as the client who's got the tax wrong? And my personal view is, yes, they should be, because if you're giving the wrong advice, they should be open to prosecution and they should share in the fines. And my
absolutely. Yeah, I agree wholeheartedly, because they are relying upon the tax advisor, and quite often they've got no idea. But if a professional person says this scheme is okay, I mean, I don't know, but I presume most tax advisors don't say, look, this is a bit dodgy, but if we say nothing about it, nobody will find out. I'm sure, you know, that's not what they're saying, but yeah, I think you're right.
I mean, I was going to say, you've only got to have a look at all the sports people and the television presenters that have been involved in this tax avoidance scheme for saving money by investing into film companies. On the face of it, if you're a non-tax person, it looks fine. But if you're, you know, there is a thing that says if it looks too good to be true, then it probably is. You know, there are no ways that you can save that much tax without HMRC finding out about it. And of course, if it's a scheme that they think is wrong, they'll back tax it, and they can go back as far as they want. But anyway, another question coming. Oh, quick question from Faye. Hi, Faye. Good afternoon to you. Not sure if this was brought up before. This is into redundancies and furlough money that we spoke about last week. About notice period for redundancies. The HR contact for my client said we can claim furlough during this period, but I thought it was mentioned in chats that this was not the case. Yeah, I did get a bit confused a couple of weeks ago, Faye. You can claim furlough if somebody is on a redundancy notice period. So you can claim the 80%. I think, again, there's just so much going on and the brain doesn't hold as much as it used to. So I think if they're actually on a redundancy notice period, you're supposed to pay them 100% and you can claim back 80%. What you can't furlough for is the actual redundancy pay that you get them, which is due on their length of service and that sort of thing. If they're within the last year or 2 years, you can pay them for redundancy notice, but not for any additional redundancy pay that they're open. So hopefully that clears it. And Faye, you've got my email address, so if you want to have a chat with it, come up me an email.
Yeah. Just one of the things that I think is happening, this idea that people should be found partly responsible for bad advice, etc. What we're getting very heavily now from OPBAS and from the FCA and everybody else is that we have to name and shame people that haven't come up to scratch. So our members who've been fined for non-compliance, we're going to have to publish their names because they see that as dissuasive. So what we've decided here today, and the reason I'm in today, is we're talking about the OPBAS report, and you know, we thankfully have had a good report, but it also means that, you know, they're expecting us to be a bit of a shining light, even more so than we are now. We're very pleased to take that on. That's great. But perhaps if we're naming and shaming the bad ones, we ought to be naming the good ones. And one of the reasons that I mention this is that we did, June and I did the Telford and Staffordshire meeting recently, the branch meeting, and Kim Kelly was on there. And we know Kim of late. You know, we followed her right the way through being a student, and she's shy and retiring, you know, like our members normally are. But she was saying on the evening that she'd had an inspection and she'd come out as compliant. But she was so over the moon at becoming compliant that she obviously deserves her mention as well. So we'll be doing that. But so that's great. Just one thing I'd like to mention very quickly, a big up to Lee Perkins from Sage. He's just been promoted to Chief Operating Officer. So when Stephen Kelly left, the new Stephen took over. He was their finance director. He became their CEO. And we all had visions of, you know, I've never favoured an accountant running a company, but that's one of those things. But he seems to have done a good job. But Lee's been around for quite a while, based up in their Manchester office, head of sales and various things. I know he disappeared for a short time and then came back. So they're obviously pleased to get him back. And we'll be catching up with Lee. He's already said he'll come onto ICB TV and gives a talk. So I think that's a move in the right direction. So the COO has a sales background and the CEO has an accounting background. So it'll be interesting to see how they get on, but never mind. Other thing just to mention, if I can just get up the things now. Yeah, everybody likes it when I tell everybody what's going on. So the next thing to happen is on the 17th. So that's Monday. We've got the latest in the Fluidly webinar series. Now, the reason this is particularly important, obviously cash flow, which is what they're all about, is very, very important. But their heading for this is turning data into insights. Now, those of you who are thinking of becoming fellows and you want to take your level 4, you will have noticed there's a new section there called Business Insight. Now, it used to be called management accounting, but that got very confusing. And again, that was my fault. Jackie will nod when I say that, because that was me. I knew what I meant when I said it. But Business Insights is about using the information which you create as bookkeepers, but then giving that information to the small business owners in such a way that they have an insight. And I know it sounds silly, but insight into their own business. Because quite often they'll look at a set of figures and providing it's not a negative, everything's fine. But they don't think of forward planning. They don't think of the next purchase is going to have a detrimental effect. They want to take on some new members of staff, but it's going to take 6 months before they start bringing in revenue. There's all sorts of things which come into insights. And that's why I think that's a very important part of our new structure of our level 4. And Fluidly are looking at this. Obviously, it's using software, but actually this is what we should be doing across the board now. I think we need to be using all sorts of software because it's there. It will do some work for us. our place is to know which is a bit of software which needs to be used, but then importantly know how to use it, know how to read it ourselves, because that's the only way that we can do that. So that's good. So then Aberdeen is they have a branch meeting on the 17th, also on Monday. On the 18th, it's Northern Ireland. On the 19th, it's Oxfordshire. That's a 5:30 meeting. Yeah, and then West Sussex is on the 8th of September. Can you believe it's also close now to the 8th of September? You know, I don't know what's going on here. So I'm going to do something a bit unusual here now. I'm going to try and see if this works. Here we are. So I'm going to just show you now. This is Steve. You all know Steve Harvey. He's our director of AML. He's here today for the meeting that we've been having, and I'm going to have a quick walk around and show you what we're doing here in the office. Oh, these are the words which we have on our walls. Have you seen that? The great work of the men and women of the Institute of Certified Bookkeepers guarantees continued high standards in a vital and time-honoured profession. And that's by somebody by the name of Boris Johnson, ex-mayor of London. Whatever happened to him, eh? Anyway, let's see who else we've got in here. Here we are. This is one of our new recruits. This is Alina, and she's going to be looking after our people in Eastern Europe, as well as looking after you and members. So if you're listening to us today over in Ukraine, this is Alina. She'll be talking to you very shortly, or wherever else you're from. Then, of course, we've got Julius Tafora, who is our finance director, but also he's wearing the gloves there because he's just been setting us all up with some new computers and new systems so that we look after your data even better. Then we've got another new person with us. This is Feli Tafora. You might recognize the common surname, but this is actually actually Julius is the husband of Feli, let's put it that way. And she's coming in, she's working on all the systems that we have and putting everything in place, because ICB, we've got everything in its place, but not necessarily a behind it. So we're going to sort that one out. Everybody knows June. Hi, June. There's June. She's in today. We're having a day-to-day talking about money laundering and trying to make sure we're doing things right. And then Jane Harvey. And Jane is our head of intelligence and investigations. So she's the one that goes through all the database and makes sure that you've got everything right. I don't think we've got anybody else here. So this is our office. It's the first time back. Oh, there we are. That shows you what we've been trying to figure out. If you can make any sense out of that, you're better than me, because it got far more confusing than I thought it was going to be. So who else have we got here? Nobody. Right. Anyway, I'm gonna go back here. This is our office. This is the first time we've actually been back in any group for a few days. Sorry, 4 months to be exact. That's our boardroom there. And this is our kitchen. You will note, those of you who are able to see these things, we actually have optics in here. It doesn't mean we drink a lot. It just means that occasionally we like to have a bit of fun. And this is our pool table, because during the lunch hour, quite a lot of our team like to play pool. And we've got a bit of an American diner theme going on here. So that's just to make life nice for our people. And there we are. So I hope you didn't mind me quickly showing you around, but I thought while we're here, I would do that. And when we get back into the office, it's probably going to be a little bit later this year now, probably say October time. I don't know, we're playing it by ear a little bit. If any of you are local and you want to pop in, or you're down in London and you want to come in and say hello, please give us a shout. We'd love to see you, show you around a little bit. And I'm just going to plug this in, because at the moment my machine is running out of power a little bit, so if I disappear quickly, that is why. Right, Jackie.
Yeah, Kirsty St. Hi, Kirsty's come back and said, loving the office tour. And Susanna says, love to see the office and everyone in it. I have to say, shortly after we moved in, I had a meeting in the office, and somebody picked up on the optics, and I said, yeah, you gotta love a boss that puts optics up in your kitchen.
Yeah, we honestly
on the odd occasions that some of us might have a tipple from it on a Friday evening at the end of the month. But
wait a minute, I have to get up and let Steve in. He's locked himself out.
Oh. And Natalie said, lovely to see. Thank you. Yeah, they're nice offices to work in. I don't get in there very often days apart from lockdown.
Well, we've come back after, 4 months or something or other, and it's quite spooky and eerie because it's all very dark. We had to fire up the air conditioning again, and it was really quite hot in here. But it's surprising considering we've not been here. It got a little bit dirty. So actually, we've got somebody coming in shortly to do a deep clean, and before the staff come back in any great number. So whatever happens, the service will remain there. So whether it's coming from here or from people's homes, and we've got, as we said before, we've got so-called offices all over the place, from Blackpool and some of Wigan and all the way down that way, right the way across the southeast, and Jacquie out in the Kent countryside, or very close to the coast, and everything else. So yeah, we're spread about a bit, but hopefully you haven't noticed too much difference.
Thank heavens for Zoom and team meetings.
Yeah, to be honest with you, I didn't like it when we first started. Then I got used to it. But I think a number of the team now, particularly the younger ones, want a bit of social contact. So I think we will come back somehow or other. We haven't figured out how yet. We were going to have a few more here today until Agatha Guanacha, who's our sort of chief operating lady, told us that we needed to fill in all sorts of forms and have disinfectant here, there and everywhere. So we've got most of that in place, but we thought, oh, well, we better not risk it. Our people are far too important to slip up just for the sake of coming to the office, because we've taken on some new people, as I've mentioned before, and Alina, who you just met there, that's her first time in the office. So I'm hoping she likes it, because you know, she's going to have to work here. And we've got a couple of others who are coming in at different times, all with great big new jobs to do. We're going to be doing a lot more actually as an institute to support you, and so you'll be hearing about that in due course. Who have we got coming in here? Natalie Botcher. Hi Natalie, that was lovely to see, thank you. If my battery wasn't almost flat on this thing, I would have taken a little bit more time. But what we'll do when we do come back, I'll do a complete run round and let you meet the rest of the team as well. They were a bit flabbergasted then when I suddenly shined the camera on, but so be it. I don't think I've got much else to cover, Jacquie. How are we doing with it?
I'm just trying to work this one out. There's a comment in from Tom. Hi, Tom. Said, good afternoon. I'm having some difficulty in submitting the July furlough claim. Some of the staff are part furloughed and some are still fully furloughed. When submitting a claim, I'm having to enter both the number of hours that an employee would normally work and the hours they have actually worked. For the employees who are still fully furloughed, I try to enter 0 when asked how many hours have been worked. The system doesn't accept this. So, should I enter 0.01 as it will allow me to do this? Is anyone else having problems with this? Well, anyone that's listening, if you've had a mixture of fully and part furlough staff and you've solved this problem, if you're listening, please put a message up. If not, Tom, I'll try and do some research and contact you next week on that. I'll make a note.
Great. I think we've had a pretty good week here. The second of our software head-to-heads on Wednesday, which was handled by Amy Copeland, seemed to have gone down very, very well. More than 550 of you tuned in afterwards to look at it again. The idea is that we pick members who will support a piece of software because it's much better if you get it from a salesman, the pros and the cons, and I think we had some fun on Wednesday with that. Next week, I think we're trying to do auto entry and receipt bank. So we've still got a couple of people vying for that job, but if you think that you are an absolute expert and you love that product, one of those products, please let us know. Just get in touch with customer service, and we'll see what we can do about getting you on there. We're looking at different ways of doing it. It may be that in fact in future we have 2 or 3 of you on or something, we're not quite sure. But since we've been doing this, so many of you come up with ideas of other groupings that we should be looking at, that it's turning in. I think it'll be quite a long running process, this, and I think it's great. You know, there are no holds barred. We don't tell you what you can or can't say. We just cross our fingers that you don't say anything too bad. But the members are obviously really liking it. Have we got some more questions there?
Yeah, no, we've got some answers for Tom. I love you all very much. You're so helpful. Tom, some answers coming in. Nicola says, You only tick the employees that are flexible. The rest automatically takes as fully furloughed. And Steph's come back and said, I had a couple like that. I'm sure there was a question after entering the employee name and Nino as to whether fully or part furloughed. Ticking fully just took you straight to the next employee. So hopefully, Tom, that's your answer. But if you're happy with that, that's done that one. If not, let me know and I'll look into it again next week for you. But hopefully that will solve the problem. Well done. Thank you very much. Now I've got issue where the questions are coming in a slightly different order now, and I'm not quite sure why at the moment. So
yeah, it's messing about a bit. Oh, yeah.
I'll clear out the ones that we've done, and then we'll see the ones that come in after that.
That's a good idea.
Tom says, I'll try and let you know. Thanks, everyone. Much appreciated. So, yes, thank you very much indeed. Good. Hopefully that works for you, Tom. Okay. That's cleared all the planning questions.
I think it's, we have a lot of people on holiday at the moment, you lucky people. Actually, June and I thought we'll have a couple of days away. Let's have a time away. There's nowhere to go. Everybody's locked. You know, everybody's booked up. So we're taking a couple of days away in Eastbourne. So we're going to be with the old people. So some would say yes, with Coles to Newcastle, but nonetheless, we're going to have a couple of days away. So we'll be back on Monday. But yeah, trying to get a holiday now is proving pretty difficult. So hopefully this means that the hotel industry and the catering industries are getting better. They're going to start getting some trade because everybody needs it. And we'll keep an eye on everybody. If any of you feel that you've got particular trades that are suffering a lot and you think you found a way to help them out, something like that, let us know what's going on, because we're all about the people here at ICB. You're the only reason we're here. If you weren't here, we wouldn't bother. So you've got to tell us what's going on, anything that you can do to help, anything you're finding which is particularly useful, or you've got a client that's, I don't know, turned their cafe into an office or office into a cafe or whatever it might be, anything like that at all, any little insights you can give us. We're always on the lookout for information that we can put onto members. So that'd be great.
Interesting. I know Leslie's daughter was away with some girlfriends for her birthday last weekend, and the hotel they were staying in down in Dorset was absolutely fully booked, completely booked out.
Well, we've come back to the office for the first time, as I say, for about whatever it is, 4 months, and it's looking a bit busier outside. I have to say, we've been across to get some coffees from Costa because we know they're quite well over there, and we wanted to give them a bit of trade, and we weren't exactly in a queue. But the interesting thing is there might not be many people around, but I've just noticed there's a traffic jam outside, which I think sums it up really. So that's people sticking more to their cars. But I think the time has come, people. It is a quiet Friday, and I know a lot of you are, were basking in the sun. If it's anything like London, you're now basking in the thunder, lightning, and intermittent downpours. But I'm getting old enough to be one of those people who says, yes, but we needed to keep the temperature down a bit and to help the garden, which, I often wondered why my parents and grandparents were saying that. I know that now.
Yeah,
and I know Jackie's a very keen gardener, so she's no doubt blessing the water as it drops.
We have no rain at all down here. My garden is still looking very parched. So, we had about half an hour at 4 o'clock one morning, but by the time we got up, it completely disappeared. So no, we've had no rain at all. Very overcast and humid here today, so hopefully we will get some. I think our rain is due next week.
Yeah. Anyway, thank you, Jackie. It's been great to have you on again, and thank you for fighting the corner for ICB with yet another panel that isn't quite going the way we wanted to, but no. I think we will. We'll
get them.
We'll lead them there. We'll be doing it. Have a great weekend, everybody. We'll be in touch about what's happening next week. Again, it's a slightly reduced plan because we're all on holiday as well, or some of the people here are on holiday. But certainly we're here on Wednesday with Receipt Bank versus Auto Entry. And we will be thanking Furlough It's Friday again next week. So see you all again. See you soon.
Bye. Have a good weekend. Bye all.